Be a big button. Okay. So Juan Carlos Grajales is our speaker today. His name, I practicing on rolling my R's. I have a really hard time with it, so I'm trying to get there. His name is Juan Grajales, and he is a software developer at Economic Security Planning. He has roughly 3 years of experience working in the industry and about 1 year working with the Angular framework. And today he's going to be talking about Angular Material and Amplify. So take it away, Juan.
Very, very good, Julie. Okay, let's see. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Let's start. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Beginning. There you go.
There you go. Perfect.
You guys see that?
Yep.
Nice. All right. So yeah, I think we kind of gone over. I'm going to just reflect back of what we've done, and so far we've gotten to know a little bit about Angular components. We've reflected back on how they communicate with parent and child components. We talked a little bit about the most popular Angular directives, built-in Angular directives. This one's a little off of Angular because it's kind of like a third-party library. But this whole presentation is almost like a third-party library because we're using Angular Material and we're using Amplify. And so we're not really diving into Angular in this presentation. The reason why I wanted to take this route because I think some of the people from our audience might have shown up to the presentation, maybe ready to build an application or maybe getting a jump start. And I thought that these two third parties can help you do that. So let's go ahead and dive in on Angular Material first, and then we'll move on to AWS Amplify. This is the agenda for today. We're going to go over Angular Material, what it is. We're going to look at some material documentation, which is, I think, is really excellent. And we're going to see if we can add it to our project and just explore some of the Angular Material components. After that, we'll go into AWS Amplify. We'll talk about what it is, and we'll see if we can just do a quick host of that. And so that way I can share the link, and you guys can also just click on the link and see the website yourself or the application yourself. And of course, if you want to follow along, you need to have Angular, you need to have Angular CLI, Visual Studio Code, and well, some prerequisites like Node.js and NPM package manager. Okay, a little bit about me, 3-year developer, a bit of a tech stack with Python, Angular, TypeScript, and a little bit of AWS, located in Los Angeles. And pretty much my goals for this year is to be an AWS hero and to write content for both Angular and AWS. Okay, so let's get started. Angular Material. So what is Angular Material? Well, Angular Material is going to be this UI component library. It provides already built-in components that are pretty much quick for you to use. So you don't have to try to figure out how to create a button or how to create a menu or a side nav. They're all pretty much already built in and they're ready for you to use. So that's actually quite nice for Angular. And then you're able to also just not only have the components, but you're also able to have the sort of the layout, the typography, utilities like responsiveness or overlays of certain things. So it kind of already has this pre-built functionality that you're able to use. So this makes it easy for you to create a consistent and a modern looking user interface for Angular application. But Angular Material does come with a separate package, and that's a component development kit. And that is what handles that utility function. And some of that utility, you'll see it's like an overlay or accessibility. And we'll see some of that as we start to code along. But I wanted to break that down because I think it's important for you to understand a little bit about the differences between the two. When we go into the documentation, you'll see. And so here we go. Yeah, I got a little creative, and I guess I got carried away with the coloring, but why not? So here we go. So this is explaining what the CDK is. The CDK is a separate package, like I mentioned, and it holds a set of tools and utilities provided by Angular Material. And the CDK has features like or functionalities that make it, like, again, accessible, responsive, and makes the component flexible. So if you think about this, when I separated the two of them, utility functions with base component, you don't have to download the entire Angular material. You can just download utility functions and apply those functions to your own components. So you can create your own custom components with those functionalities, and that way you just focus on your business logic that you need to build. It also has base components, and we'll get to see some of the base components. And if you put those two together, you'll get this concrete component class. And if you add some Google Material Design to that, well, you get a mix of a little bit of everything. And that's what Angular Material is, right? The utilities with the concrete components and some material design. And that's what you get. You get the Angular Material component. So let's see if we can see if I can go along. I don't know if I've missed anything. Let's see. Okay, so let's go to the Angular Material website and let's just explore some of the documents. And if you guys, I encourage you guys to also take a look. And because I'm not, so from my experience, I do use Bootstrap. And I know Bootstrap is more of CSS, but they do have some JavaScript components that we use. I wanted to take on the challenge to Angular Material just to see what it is and what it feels, how to use it. So yeah, if you guys have a chance, take a look at the documentation. I'm gonna go and swing to the documentation here. And so here's the Angular Material documentation. It does a pretty good job. And like again, it separates the component with the CDK. And we can take a look at some of the functionalities and base components, and you can see some of the utilities, right? Accessibility. You have a base component that is an accordion. You have base components that are tables, overlays, and so this is pretty neat for you to just add that to your project and focus on your business logic or focus on what your application needs to build, and instead of having to worry about some of these functionalities. And so they'll separate it with the CDK and they'll separate it with the components. And I'm going to just show an example of a base component. A base component is just really the skeletons without the design. And you'll see here that they have this table base component, and this is what it looks like. But if we were to go to components here, and so this is now Angular Material with the concrete and with the material design. If you were to take a look at that same component with the addition of design, well, this is that's the same table, right? So now you start to see a little bit more of a modern look. And so that's how they separate it. I didn't create slides because I think the guides do a really good job for us getting started. So I'm just gonna go ahead and follow the guides. And I'm gonna see how much I probably can get up to this part right here. But we can kind of get started here, and I can kind of walk you guys through as to how we can do this. In the meantime, I will create a new project. I'm just gonna call it Angular Material. Okay. And let's see if we can go back here. All right, so this, yeah, like I said, the documentation they do a phenomenal job, and they have a ton of examples for you to check out. But we're just kind of walk through some of the very first steps. Like for example, how do you add Angular Material to your project? Well, here they go. They just have the first step as to adding that Angular Material. So we can just copy this, and I'm just going to add that to the project. I'm going to say yes for now. That's okay. I'm curious if anybody in the group has used Angular Material or is familiar with it.
Yes, all
Yeah.
the time,
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So
every day.
I get stuck, then I'll let you. I'll just pass it on to Julie.
Great.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. This is. I don't really use it again. I've used mostly Bootstrap, but I kind of wanted to explore and check out what Angular Material was about. But it looks really nice and well.
Actually, got a question. Like, is it better to use the CDK or the components directly?
You mean the Angular Material, or because when we talk about the CDK has both the base component and it has the utility functions.
So base components means what? Angular component or?
Yeah, it's an Angular component, but with no, you can tell that this component right here is a base component and it has no design to it. No, you see that it's just pretty much the skeleton of it with the utility table compared to an Angular material. If you go over here and if you click on this table, which is using the same base component, but now it's adding some design, and it's the same thing. You'll see that it's hydrogen, helium, lithium, and you'll see this different feel and different look to it.
So basically, I could use the base component and use Bootstrap instead of material. Is it like that?
Well, I don't know if you can do that. I mean, because Bootstrap is more of CSS. I mean, you can do that. I'm just trying to figure out why would you want to go that route. It just seems like you would just want to use Angular Material for the CSS.
So why would they give base components there? Why they give base components?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure actually why you would use base components. I mean, some of these are, for example, like I would use utilities, but I don't know how. That's a good question. I don't know how many.
I mean, the base component library, if you click on the components, there's a bunch more of base components than there is a CDK. The CDK is a lot newer, more recent, and not everything is part of the CDK yet, but the components themselves, there's a boatload of components that you can use. But
meaning why would I ever use base components rather than material, Angular material?
Angular material is the base. The base components are Angular material. So when I want to use a button, if I click on components, if you click on components and you go to button, then you can copy the code from here and create a button, and then you're all set to go, and it copies everything that you want. They've got the HTML, they've got the CSS, you create your component and you go.
Right. Yeah. Is the purpose of the CDK like to provide the functionality, but maybe you want different styling than the components offer you, right? The components offer a certain kind of styling. So is a CDK for the functionality and you want to add some kind of custom styling to it that's not easily available in the components? Is that the purpose of the CDK?
No, I don't think the CDK is more. I mean, I use mainly the components. The CDK, if you want to do something like virtual scrolling, then you use the CDK for virtual scrolling. So it's more, I think it's more a framework agnostic component library. No, and again, they don't have everything in the CDK. They haven't converted everything to a CDK, but I think their plan is to eventually convert all of the components and everything to the CDK to make it framework agnostic. Don't quote me on that.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think over here they do talk a little bit about the CDK table and the purpose of it. I mean, it seems like it just gives a developer more freedom.
Right.
Of course, that's kind of maybe that layer of flexibility. But again, I haven't really used it, but let's see. It says this component acts as a core upon which anyone can build their own tailored data table experience. The table provides a foundation upon which other features such as sorting, Pagination can be built. So this enforces no opinions on these matters. Developers have full control over the interaction patterns associated with the table. So I guess it just, but I don't know of a use case. I haven't had a use case of that. That's a great question.
I think it's more of like a root, kind of like a root level. This is the base level that you can build on. And I think that's probably what Gemidine was saying. And then the components is everything already put together. You don't need to think about it. You just take the component, slap it in, and go.
Right. Looks like CDK is more like where we want to develop alternative components, like for example, paper component, like paper, like some other style. So if you want to develop some other style, then we use CDK.
It seems like it seems like you want to use a different styling. Like you mentioned Bootstrap. Maybe you can do that, the Bootstrap styling, and then just leave the functionality to Angular Materials, or just download the CDK, which you can. You could do that. You could just download the CDK. I think they show it here. In case you just want to install the Angular CDK, you can just do that with the Angular CDK.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that might be a possibility that might be a possibility as to what we're looking at, where we do our styling in Bootstrap, and then maybe we want to use some of the Angular Material functionalities or what you call it, but and maybe we would just want to. We don't need the whole bundle. We just want CDK, and maybe that's a good time to use it. But that's a great question. I'm not entirely sure we answered your question, but okay. All right, so now we're at the process of let's install the Angular material. So great, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this, and let's go into Visual Studio Code. And if you already have your project up, you can kind of follow along. I did the command line ng-new, and I called it I gave it a name, and the name was Angular Material. I almost forget. I need to go into the project directory, and then here is where I can then apply the ng add Angular Material. So now we're adding the entire bundle, and not just the CDK. This includes the CDK. So let's see what we get. Close that. And then let's just kind of walk through and see what it does, what changes it makes, and maybe we get a better sense of sort of the structure of this. So let's see. Just gonna wait, and in the meantime, take a look. Yeah. Okay. And yes. Okay, so here they kind of give you a pre-built themes, but I'm just gonna go with the Indigo first, and then we'll talk about it later. And then we can set up a global Angular Material typography style that includes that would be like fonts, right? Fonts and style and sort of sizing and that kind of font family, right? Let's see. So, yes to that. And then a lot of the animation that goes behind Angular Material as well. So I'm gonna hit yes to that. So pretty much leave yes to all of these is what I've done so far. Okay, so let's kind of walk through as to what we see, what made some changes, and we can kind of already see here. For example, I can start with the package JSON, and we can see what dependencies were being added. I can see here the editor does a great job by letting me know, hey, this is a change right here in green. I have Angular CDK added, and I also have Angular Material, so it's adding those two packages. I can also take a look at, let's see, for example, Angular JSON. Let's see what that, okay, so Angular JSON is going to, if you go a little down, okay, so under styles, you can see that it's adding the address or the path to node modules, pre-built themes, Indigo Pink. And we can also take a look at that just to see what are some of the pre-built. And we just saw an example, right? We saw 4 of them, I believe, 4 that we saw. And if we go to that same path, material and pre-built themes, here's pretty much what we have. We have deep purple, we have indigo pink, and so those are the 4 that we have. And so we can make a change here to deep purple, and it's going to reflect that. And so maybe that could be a good exercise to try later on in our project, so we can see it. But for right now, I guess it's fine. We can also take a look at the index to see what changes were in the index HTML. And we can see that material icons, it also provides icons for you, is brought in, as well as the font family is brought in. And let's see what else. Style CSS also had changes. And then I guess the last one is app modules here, where it kind of brings in, interesting. Oh, sorry, this is, oh, wow. I think I made well, that's not a big deal. I actually wanted to make changes to the Angular material here. So I'm just going to, that was the old one actually. All right, so give me 1 second. We'll go to the terminal. CD Angular material. And then I'm just going to, I think I still have it. Yeah. I'm just gonna add it here. This is actually the old one that we worked on. So let me not focus on that one. But it's still, you still see the changes there, and the same changes are going to be reflected on the Angular material. So I'm just going to kind of walk through on the app modules. So just ignore some of these components here. Really what we want to look at is this browser animation module that was added from Angular material. This is part of Angular material. Okay, so. All right, so let's go back to the documentation while that is loading, and let's see what else we got. Okay, so yeah, it kind of already explains to you what is going on here when you add these, what the pre-built material designs are, the typography, the browser animation modules, and it tells you what was added in the dependencies, what we walked over on the package.json, index.html, and so forth. And then here we go. So here's an example of what we can do. We can use this matte slide toggle module and just see how that reflects and see how that looks. And again, I think the main focus here, we probably won't write as much Angular as we've written in the past, but I think it's just for you to get a sense of, hey, this is some pre-built stuff that you don't have to build from scratch. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just use it and focus on your business logic. So I'm just going to go ahead and click yes. Let's go in. That's it. I'm sticking with the indigo pink for now. And okay, perfect. Okay, so now Angular material, this is the one that we want to focus on. I'm just going to run ng-serve, and we're going to see the just going to see that shell again of what Angular provides us when we run this, and then I'm just going to follow along, and I'm going to go into the app component. We have a title. Okay, fine. We have the HTML here. Okay. And I'm just waiting for it to bundle up, compile. So far, any questions or any other questions that people have, or any thought and somebody wants to express while we're bundling?
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay.
So far, Juan, any kind of thoughts between, since you mostly use Bootstrap, kind of like thoughts of Bootstrap versus Material, or Anything like that? Any
Yeah,
early thoughts?
no, I mean they're pretty similar. I think Bootstrap also presents some good documentation and some good examples of how to use certain things. So I've been able to, go around Bootstrap and work pretty fine, and we've kind of gotten used to it already. So, but I was just kind of curious also to see how Angular Material is, and I really like Angular Material too. So,
Are you using NGX Bootstrap usually?
NGX Bootstrap, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so here's the shell that we see. I'm gonna just go ahead and remove that, and then I'm just gonna follow the steps as to what we've got in the documentation. Let's go over here. And okay, so now it's telling me, hey, you need to. So here's the good thing about Angular Material, that you haven't done anything yet. You've added it to the project, you've added the dependencies, but by just installing it, it doesn't default. Does not import any of the components that you see on the Angular documentation. So you need to sort of import these into the module. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to follow along, and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to import this module into our component. So far, we only have one component, and that's the root component. Just going to keep it simple. And I'm going to add this here. Okay, it's complaining because we haven't imported it. And I'm going to start importing exactly, that's what I want. So let's go ahead and save that. Let's see now. Okay, so great. Now we've imported it, so now it's accessible to us. And let's go ahead and go to the TS component. Oh, sorry, let's go to the HTML. And I'm just going to follow again the documentation. It tells me once I've imported it, let's go ahead and add this to the HTML. Okay, I'm just going to copy it like that. Let's go to VScode, paste. Let's save that, and well, let's just take a quick look, see what this looks like. And there you go. You have a good looking toggle. I mean, I know it's kind of to the corner, but you get the idea of this being a modern look. If you wanted to add some kind of settings or some kind of tool for your users. And again, like I said, the documentation, they do a really good job of showing you I'm gonna go to the components, and since we use Angular Material components, I'm gonna go to the toggle and the slide toggle, and over here. So here you can already see an overview of it. You can see the API. You can see examples of this and how they use it. You can see they have a list of properties that you can add to this component. Properties that are coming in, whether if you wanted to change the color, if you wanted to add in the checked ID, if you wanted to pass in a name, and then here are some of the output emitters that you would want to maybe listen to, whether it's a change or toggle change. And so that's pretty neat. And there can, again, you can see some examples of how they use it. And I can just take a look at the code and see how they're using that. How they're using, for example, if I take a look at, let's see, over here, Mat Radio, group, let's see the toggle actually. Oh, here we go. So here's a slide toggle, and you can see some of the inputs here. They have a class, they have a color, checked, disabled. This is all stuff that you can pass in. And you can also take a look at some of the examples over here. And here they use a form control, whether it's checked or not. You can add that as well if you want to know whether it's checked, if you want to display that. And so we can also mimic that. You can just copy this and add that here, and then copy this, and let's go into just adding it here. Is checked. I'll leave that to true. And okay. And then I just have to add one more thing. I need to add the forms module here. The forms module. I think that's how you do it. And let's see if I can add this as well. I think import, yeah. Okay. And so, and then what I'll do is just to reflect, that's actually quite nice because you can go into the app component, and if you want to take a look, to see what that looks like, if you want to see, hey, I need to know if it's checked or not, or if I want to show that, you can do that and see if it comes out. And so that doesn't look clean, but that doesn't, I can add the space there, but you get the point, no? If it, kind of communicates with you, hey, if it's true or false that it's been toggled. So it's something that you can kind of follow along. And it's great. It's great. Again, it shows you all these examples, and you can just apply those sort of same examples. And that's, one part of it. You can also, I think I found it interesting. I also looked at the guides, and we'll go to the to another part where is the schematics. You can also follow along the schematics, and it's already kind of gives you a scheme of designs of it gives you a scheme of these components of how they would or a blueprint of how they would structure the components depending on the scheme that you want. And so, for example, I'm going to go into here. And they have and so kind of this follows along the same introduction where you add the Angular material, or if you want to add the CDK, you can. But here are the schematics that you can use, whether very common things, right? Like the address form is one thing. Navigation creates a component with a responsive material design side nav and toolbar. What website doesn't have that? I mean, they have it right here. Dashboard, tables, trees. So I can do one of these and just see how fast with just one command line, it's just amazing how you can focus more on your business logic. And so I'm going to just do that. I'll go ahead and I'll delete this. And let's see if we can add go to another terminal. This one's fine. This is Angular Meetup. So let's go back and let's go into material. And okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna follow the guide of the schematics, and I'm just gonna use a navigation one, unless somebody else wants to use something else or anybody has any objection. But anyway, let's see. No, all good. Okay. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to follow along the documentation. It tells me to sort of follow the ng generate at Angular Material, and Angular Material has this schematic that is called navigation. That's perfect. And then I'm just going to call this main nav. That's the name of the application, and let's see what it builds just with that. And so you see that it created and then updated the app module. Okay, nice. So let's take a look at the app. And we can see here that we have a component called main nav. And so let's take a look at what this main nav looks like. We're going to walk through it in the HTML, but I'm just going to take a quick look to see how this looks. I'm going to copy the selector. And I'm going to paste that app nav HTML. It's over here. I'm just going to paste that over here. Yeah. And so just with a one command line, let's see what code it generated and what this looks like. Let's see. There you go. So you already see that you're starting to have a look of no, all right. Okay, and so it also is responsive. I mean, it closes, it opens. So for anybody, again, looking to see something of this nature, I mean, that's what Angular Material does. It just helps you with the name and the menus and the different types of links that you want to provide for your application. Let's see. So yeah, we can kind of walk through a little bit about this. And we can take a look at the HTML here, and they have this container over here that covers everything. Most of this is probably because it's most of it's probably because of the overlay. the ability to make it pop out of everything. And you can see that over here where it just sort of allows that side nav to pop out in case it needs to. And then we have here the side nav, and you can see that it uses the template reference called drawer. It has a class and all of this information. So this right here, this mat side nav, I bet that I can find that in the documentation. If I go back, I bet I can find that here in this component, this Angular material. And I can go here into side nav, and this kind of gives me the examples and APIs and all that information that I'm sure that I can find. Because for me right now, I don't know what fixed in view and viewport means. I can search for it in the app, and you know, I only see one place of it. So honestly, I don't know what that is. I don't know where that comes from. So we would have to go into the API and figure it out and try to search for it. That's kind of my workflow, right? If I don't understand something, I go back to the documentation, I take a look, and you know, it kind of gives you a description. Now, whether the description is helpful or not, that's another thing. This side nav is fixed in the viewport. Well, not very helpful, but again, then you can, you know, search Stack Overflow, or you have ChatGPT, or you can do other forms of searching of that. And so let's see what else we've got. Okay, so there you have it. There you have the mat side nav. You have the mat toolbar. You have the list right here. This is the one where it shows the links. And then again, mat list item. This is probably another component coming from, and mat toolbar is another component. Mat nav list. All these are components being built and designed in a scheme for navigation, and that's what schematics does. It does a pretty good job of that. And so it is helpful if you know how to get around with it to customize it to your ability, right? To your liking. And so we can see here, we can have the mat icon here. I can change the icon just by simply going to the components again, going to the mat icon, and let's see if I can find it. And looking at some examples, you know, maybe we want the home instead. I can take a look at the code here, seeing how they use it, you know, and then applying that same over here and changing that. You can change it over here, and then instead of the hamburger, we probably get is the home icon, and so let's see how that. And so yeah, instead of the hamburger, now you just get the home icon, and that's, you know, that's just that ability to do that. And then they're just even nice enough to tell you that you can add content here, so we can add more content if we want. So if we wanted to add a dashboard, well, we can do that. We can just go into we again go back to the schematics, and let's go into the material. Let's go to the guide, schematics. Let's see. And let's say we want to add a dashboard. That's fine. We can do that. We can just here, we can copy this. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to paste this, and I'm just going to give it a dashboard. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be called app dashboard. Yeah. But if you want to double check, you can also double check that. And I'm going to go to the class, and I'm going to look at the selector, and yeah, app dashboard is what it's called. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to add it here. And let's see if that adds in the dashboard. And yeah, there you go. And so right off, you know, with two command lines, I mean, you already have, you know, a website that you just need to fill in some content, fill in some information, and yeah, start adding some logic that is related to your business application. So I hope that this was kind of useful. I know we haven't really got into the theming part of things, but you can also customize your own theming themes as well. And we can. What I'll do is I'll just quickly show that we have this indigo pink. So far, I know there's not much pink here. Maybe I can add a button, but you saw it with the toggle, and then we can change this with the. Let's see if I can go to the index. No, not the index. I think it was in the Angular JSON. Yeah, Angular JSON, and we can change this. And if we go back to the node modules, and just to double check what's the name, I'm gonna go to material and pre-built themes, and I'm gonna type in deep purple. Let's see what that. Deep purple, amber. Save that. I'm gonna have to run it again because again, this is the part where it compiles. So let me close this out and then run it one more time. And let's see if it changes as it compiles. Let's see. There you go. So it's not much of a difference. I mean, there was a sort of a blue. Now this is a purple. But you can see just by changing that, you'll have a different theme. So yeah, that's kind of the part that I wanted to cover for Angular Material. I don't know if anybody has any questions or any follow-ups or any addition that they want to add to
We do have a request. If time and interest permit, how about showing combo boxes? Selecting an option in one combo box sets the options in a second combo box.
Okay, so that's a challenge. Let's accept it. Let's see what that combo box looks like. Okay, combo box. Where are you? Actually, I don't see it. Is that what's the name of the component if the person sees it? Is it a checkbox?
Could be a drop down. Sorry, go ahead, Julie.
Well, I was
probably know.
going to say, or is it the radio buttons?
Oh, is it? Oh, is that what it is? The buttons?
What? No,
No,
actually,
it should be listed as a combo box.
Material listed as a combo box?
No, I don't see the combo box. I can probably search it. I think they have a search here. No?
I think it's same as the list box there. The list box. The list box should be the
list.
Oh, this box here?
Yep.
Is that for the CDK or for the component? Because it's the same. Well, this one's just a list. So I guess it's a CDK. Is that what he's looking for?
I'm looking for basically a list box where you select one item, where you have a drop down. You select one item, and that becomes that becomes the only item that's shown.
Maybe okay, so what you want to see is maybe, let's see if I can find something like that where I don't want to say form, not divider. Maybe like an input field, not an input field. What do you call that? You have a tree, you have tabs, toolbar, tooltip, step.
Yeah, I don't see anything there. Maybe I'd just check on.
Oh, here you go. Like a select there. That's what okay. So you have this option.
Okay.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look. Never played with that. So let's see. It's a max select. It's a form control from selecting value. Okay. So this comes from the HTML select. Okay. To add the option to the select, add. So is this a good example? Can we use this, or maybe you want to use another example?
No, that's an overly simple example, but that's fine.
Okay. Let's take a look how we can implement this. And remove the, okay, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna remove the dashboard since we don't need that. Let's go into the main nav, HTML. Okay, and let's see. Okay. So I guess we can leave the well, I'll add the basics, but maybe we can add that. But I'm just gonna copy this, okay?
Okay, yeah, I can,
You can kind of okay. So I'm
yeah,
gonna
I can see what they're doing there, and basically it's similar to what I've done in JavaScript and Python, where you're just resetting you're resetting the options as you need to, resetting the option values.
yeah, I guess you mean over here with the NG4?
Well, down below that, it says basic native select, and then on
Oh,
your H4, and then you've got some options there. So
okay. Yeah, I guess I'm curious as to the mat label and the mat form fields. I guess those are things that you would have to add to that. You would have to import to that component to make it work. I just don't see it here. I just see import component. Maybe it would have to be imported to the module that you're working on. Yeah, but I mean, if you want to tackle it, we can tackle it. We can if we have time.
no, that's okay. I have not been using I have not used any Angular yet, and I'm just trying to decide whether or not I should invest the time in it, because I spent a whole bunch of time on Python and JavaScript, and I've got my website working. But there was a suggestion that it would be easier to reformat things if I was doing it in either React or Angular.
Okay, got it. Okay. Any other questions on Angular Material, or anybody wants to see something different, or moving on to Amplify? No. Okay. All right. So yeah, we kind of got the idea of that, and again, there are many examples there, and like you mentioned, you have the different examples, different code that you can see, and it's actually, again, it's quite neat, it's quite modern in the way it looks. So this helps. If hopefully this helps the person that's looking to build the application. But we can move on to the next one. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll see if I can go to the presentation. And there you are. Okay, so the next one is so this is an intro to Amplify. I don't really have we don't really use Amplify. Okay, so we don't really use Amplify, but Amplify is actually a pretty good tool for a front-end developer, especially who's someone starting to starting to get familiar with the cloud service. This is only for AWS. This isn't for other cloud providers, but I'm familiar with AWS and we're working with it. So, but I thought I wanted to introduce Amplify just for the individuals here, and maybe I can integrate a little bit more of it as we go along. But again, this is a platform, or if you want to look at it as a layer to the other services that Amazon Web Services provides. And so you don't need to have concrete knowledge of each service or dig down into each service. And so some of the features that Amazon Web Services provide, you can see it provides a CLI, which this is what we're going to use. It provides authentication, data storage, API, backend integration. It provides many more things, but today I'm just going to do the hosting part of things. And again, this is another place where you can look at the documentation, you can read it, follow the instructions, and we could see how it works. I will add that. Okay, so I would add that there are some pros and cons to this. Again, one of the pros is that it's pretty quick to get started on. It does shield you from the complexity of AWS if you're not interested, but that could also hinge you from learning more of the different services. So that's kind of one of the cons, right? Not really learning AWS could be a con. You could get potential surprise bills. That could also be a con. Flexibility, just like with Angular Material, you don't have the same flexibility as you can't really go outside the box and amplify. But it does handle some of the very basic things that an application can do. So let's go ahead and now see if we can follow along. Let's go into the documentation. And I went to the Amplify docs and just kind of getting started. You do need an AWS account to sign in, and once you have that signed in, you do need to create a user for this. But again, a lot of this is in the prerequisites. I'm not going to go over it because I kind of already followed through some of this information. But if you need more info on it, I mean, they have a ton of pictures, and they even have a great video on it over here on how to get started and installing it in your environment. And so I'm not going to go over that, but I will go over setting up the project. So I guess the only thing that I really need to do, I'm not going to do the back end part. I'm just going to do the hosting. And again, this is one of the, I guess it's the good thing that you can get started really quick, but the bad thing is that there's so much abstraction that you don't know what's going on under the hood. So let's go ahead and copy that, and I'm just going to go to the console here, to the terminal. And so here I'm just going to use the Amplify init to install the libraries, install the necessary tools that I need to have Amplify in the project. Yeah, that's fine. Angular Material. And so here it kind of gives me the deployment system of it, the name, the environment, the build, okay, how to the start commands, and I'm gonna just leave everything as default. And here is asking me if I want to use an access key or a profile. I do have a profile, so I'm going to use a profile for this. And my profile, I'm going to leave it as default. Yeah. Okay. Let's see how long it takes. But okay, so so that's one way to do it with Amplify, but there's also another way that you can go about it, and I think you can just go into you can use the console here, and also manage the application via AWS Amplify's AWS Amplify's UI. So you don't have to go through the command line if you feel interested in doing it on the UI. It's also pretty neat. Let's see if I can find. Okay, here we are. Okay, let's see where we at. How to improve? Okay. And say yes or no. Say yes to that. Okay, so great. We successfully added Amplify to our project. Excuse me. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go to the hosting part of this. And see if I can find it. Okay. So here they walk you through the steps of how to host it, and it's just really simple. It's only gonna take to add the command line. Again, the abstraction here works as magic. But as magical as this can be, it's also daunting if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So it's definitely highly recommendable to take a look and see what's going on behind the scenes. But I just kind of wanted to get this quick start. And then it tells me, okay, the next step you might want to do is publish it. And that's great because publishing it will get my application online. And so this application that I see here at localhost, we can get it online and I can share it with you guys. And let's see how that looks. I'm gonna say yes. And again, a lot of this can be found online and ton of documentation. So far, we've already have our Amplify published, and all we're missing is the link, and we can also customize it, customize our link, and we can also take a look at it from the console side, and that's what we have here at the console side. You can take a look at your project. You can take a look to see how it's being deployed. You can look at the backend environments as well. Right now, we don't have anything on the backend. We're just hosting. But let's see. So it's currently building. I don't know if anybody's had experience with Amplify on the chat or. Yeah, again, it's something that it could be a good intro for front end developers that don't want to get into too deep on the AWS side. But again, as sometimes with these quick starts, you could kind of get into trouble because you don't really know what's going on, right? There's so much magic that goes behind it that it could be a default. And so, yeah, if I were to click on this, and so what I'll do is I'll close this because well, I'll leave it open actually. I'll leave this one open. So here we have the address localhost. This is running locally. Let's see if I click on this, I should probably get the same. Okay, so there you go. And so this is the same. This is our Angular material here, our local host now is being on the web. And you see that it's, anybody can access it. And that's kind of what I wanted to give an intro to this meeting. Just kind of give that overall view of, hey, you can use this third library to pre-build your application. And you can use this other third library if you need any additional services, whether it be Amazon Web Services or any backend or hosting. But there's many other ways that you can do this. It's not the only way. So.
Hey, Juan, does AWS, like if people want to try this out, like have like a free tier kind of, or credits or whatever, kind of like Azure or,
I think so. I think they do have a free tier. I think it's for 1 year. Let me double check. But I think they do have 1 year. Learn more about the free tier. And I know when I tried it for 1 year, but I think they still have it. I just don't know for how long.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep. Stop sharing.
Great. Do we have any questions for Juan?
I was wondering, with AWS Amplify, have you tried any other front-end hosting that you've liked, or other options that are out there?
Yeah, no, I haven't tried any other. I guess the only hosting I've tried has been S3 Bucket, but it's been because it's just a constant static page and it's cheap. But I think I also heard GitHub also has its own where it's free. You don't have to pay. It's a static. But when it comes to the application, I haven't tried. Right now, the way we use it is we use the Elastic Beanstalk to sort of bundle every environment, and that's how we sort of deploy our stuff. But it also uses other services like CDN, Route 53 for the domain name, and so yeah. So right now, I guess for us, we use Elastic Beanstalk.
Okay.
Any other questions? Either on Material or Amplify.
There's no questions. I was actually curious if anybody uses the GitHub Copilot.
I just bought it today or signed up today, so yes, but I haven't. I don't know. I probably worked for like, I don't know, coded for like 2 or 3 hours with it, and I think I need to watch or figure out how to use it because it sometimes was helpful and sometimes was in the way. But I'm working with a friend tomorrow or coworker tomorrow who's been using it a while, and he was the one who talked me into it. So hopefully he's got some tips on how to make it more valuable. But I think it does add value.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what IDE do you use? You use VScode or?
Yeah, VScode.
I've got a coworker that has been using it and checking some stuff out. It does some pretty amazing things.
Yeah.
Especially if you're creating like classes, class properties, that kind of a thing. It has some remarkable abilities of figuring out what your properties are so that you don't have to type them all out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think sometimes, I have a hit or miss, and I don't know if it's worth the value, or I don't know if it's worth the cost. Sometimes it's a miss, and I don't think it's worth the cost. But sometimes, I guess, it almost feels like it's reading my mind, and it's like, yeah, exactly. That's what I need. That's what I want.
Do you like, we were looking at it once and it was just like, okay, so that that's amazing what it just did, but how did it do that? Did you somehow give it access to something so it would know that those are the names? And my coworker was like, no, I didn't. Have you had that experience where you're like, wow, this is remarkable, and where the heck did it pull this information from?
Yeah, some of it, like the naming convention and the actual, like, yeah, it has improved some of because that's also another battle that I have, right? Like the variable name, I want to give it a good variable name. Well, that helps. It does suggest some pretty good ones. I don't know how it gets that. I know it gets I think with a code suggestion, it gets it from GitHub repositories, and it just has a whole bunch of these repos and I guess all this information. Yeah, and it also I think it also does a pretty good job of picking your style of how you write your variable names or how you write certain things, that it will actually mimic that same style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised. I'm using, I think it's Mantine, is how you pronounce it, for UI in React right now. And it figured it out that I was using that UI library and just started like giving suggestions the HTML suggestions based on the library I was using.
Yeah, that is key. That is key. If you start writing, and if you start importing the packages that you're going to use, and you let it know, hey, this is like all the types that we're going to use, this is all the packages, these are all the libraries. Yeah, it's going to know, that's key, because it just already knows that library and it start giving you some information. That's very key.
Yeah.
And I guess lastly is just the unit testing as well. It can help with unit tests.
Do you feel like it interrupts your flow because you have to kind of, instead of just like thinking about what you're doing and kind of like, coding it all out and just kind of being in that flow, you have to kind of be like, oh wait, now I have to go check this. Wait, what happened? I got to fix this. Okay. Do you feel like it interrupts that, or do you feel like any interruption is minimal for the productivity, for the things that it automatically figures out correctly?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm probably one that and my girlfriend would be like, why are you talking? But I'm one that likes to talk out loud as I'm coding. And so for me, when I see the Git code pilot talking to me, or